From MTN News, this is Montana This Morning.
Good Friday morning. It's 5:30. Welcome to Montana This Morning. Happy New Year. I'm Victoria Hill. Thanks for starting the new year with us and your day.
Yeah, and I'm Middle Robson. Thank you so much. And if you haven't heard now, I'm the new guy.
The real deal.
The real deal.
You're
And I just want to say I'm not here to replace Ed. I'm just here to continue on the wonderful work that he's done in the morning. And he's gone to the night times. And of course, Bob is retired. And I'm the new guy, but I did have a chance to spend some time with Bob. Fantastic.
Yeah, he is.
That's a big hole that we got to try to fill. But
Right.
You can't replace him. You can only continue on with his legacy.
Yeah, every time he walked into the newsroom, I felt I was in the presence of greatness. I was like, Bob, hi. And he probably always thought I was a little weird for my reaction of being so excited to see him. But yes, you're here. You're a great person, family man. I admire that about you, and I know our viewers will love you.
And I did get a question. Is it true that I used to be a professional wrestler? I was. I was a pro wrestler for about 15 years.
Someone's been Googling you already, huh?
Yeah, people have asked questions so far. So maybe one day we'll sit down and I'll introduce myself properly. But I think I got to do weather now, don't I?
Yeah, we got to get to that.
Well,
don't want to lose your job on the first day,
That's
right?
what I get paid
All you
the
did
big
was talk
bucks
about
for.
himself.
Yeah, all right. Well, you know what? We want to say hello to Stockman Bank out of the ICANN. We're looking downtown Billings. It really is not a bad start out there, folks. Now, we've been talking about temperatures staying warmer than normal over the next couple of days, mainly just in the highs, but the nighttime lows too. Look at that, 31 right now in Billings. Winds out of the southwest at about 15 miles an hour. We do have gusts up to about 35 down in Livingston, and winds will be an issue as we go along this weekend. Now, Livingston and I, we're looking at gusts maybe over 60 miles an hour. This is all the way through Sunday. If you're going up 191 to Lewistown, you're looking at gusts maybe up to about 50 to 55. Here in Billings, I think we'll definitely have a chance to see gusts over 35 miles an hour through the weekend. So something we'll have to keep an eye on. Right now, though, we're feeling pretty good around the high line. We're looking at temperatures in the 20s and 30s. We've got some teens, Dillon at 19, as well as Glendive. And again, Billings sitting at about 31. Northern Wyoming, we're looking at 27 in Cody. And Sheridan, we're clocking in at about 23. There's your day planner today. Now, I just want to throw this out there. I've got temperatures high around 43 or so today. Yesterday, we hit 47 at the airport. So these numbers, they're just numbers, folks. They mean nothing sometimes, and these numbers actually could just be blown out the window later today. So we could get definitely warmer than what we're talking about in terms of that day planner. But I don't think anybody's going to complain. Maybe I should take credit for that. The southern boy comes up to the north and I bring some warmer temperatures.
Well, you know, I'd rather have the numbers be lower and turn out to be higher than expecting a fantastic day outside. And then I might hold a little grudge against you. But Miller said it was going to be warmer. So that's how I
remember, I get all my information off of Google. I have absolutely no idea what I'm talking about. So.
And he closes his eyes and picks the numbers.
Play a dart on the wall.
No, you know what you're doing. You're looking at the maps, you're looking at the weather systems moving in, and that's how you base all the information. And those weather systems move around.
They do.
They have a mind of their own.
They sure do. And you know, I don't want to run long here, but doing a weather is like cooking something in the kitchen. You have all the different ingredients, and if you miss out on one ingredient, it just changes things around. That's what weather is. It's like God in the Mother Nature's kitchen, and all these different variables. And if one just doesn't come in like it's supposed to, boom, things change. So that's what we're up against. So don't be too harsh on me if I get it wrong.
Don't hold anything against the man. He's just doing his job.
Anybody's fault? No, nobody really's fault here for the bad weather.
All right, Miller, I better get to the news.
Okay.
Thank you. Our top story this Friday morning, 2020 is over. The world rang in the new year with fireworks and celebrations, welcoming 2021 with optimism. Of course, the way we celebrated was different than any year yet. Midnight celebrations around the world were scaled back due to COVID-19 restrictions, with some city centers void of any revelers. More than 1 million people typically cram into New York's Times Square to watch the crystal ball drop. However, this year only a handful of frontline workers were allowed into the area. But in case you missed it, the ball dropped without a hitch. With the new year comes new laws in the Treasure State. Starting today, Montanans over the age of 21 can now use marijuana at leisure after voters approved I-190 this November. This means our local law enforcement is making changes to the way they enforce the use of marijuana to adhere to the new law. But as MTN's Andrea Lutz explains, a lot of questions remain as to how this new law will impact communities like Billings, already riddled with the drug epidemic.
Starting today, the use of marijuana recreationally is very much within the rights of Montanans under certain guidelines. But further guidance from the legislature is also still very much needed for police. As a new law rolls out letting Montanans use weed, area law enforcement still have many questions as to its impact.
Our concern is that there's going to be those consequences. There's going to be some type of impact on the community negatively.
But this concern is no surprise. Both Billings Police Chief Rich St. John and Yellowstone County Sheriff Mike Linder came out in October against the initiative, saying drugs are the main driver for property and violent crimes in Billings.
It wouldn't surprise us to see an increase in those numbers that have substance-related stuff.
But the voters have spoken, and supporters say this frees up police to focus on more serious crimes and brings in a new funding source for the state. But Lieutenant Brandon Woolley with BPD says there's still much to be determined with the measure.
And so we're waiting for the legislature to come out with more information on what is going to be a criminal offense versus a civil offense.
Until then, here's what BPD plans to do.
Marijuana will be legal to possess under 1 ounce, 1 ounce and under, or 8 grams of some type of concentrate. And so our officers will no longer be, seizing those misdemeanor amounts.
Woolley says combating small marijuana crimes were never a high priority for the department anyway. He says smoking in public is not allowed and will be enforced, and you can't drive with it either. But
we still will be involved in, let's say if you got 4 or 5 pounds on you and you've got evidence of trafficking and distribution, we're still going to seize everything and we're still going to forward through for the county attorney's office with prosecution.
But here's something still to be determined: the use of drug dogs. Woolley says 2 of their drug dogs were never trained for marijuana detection. So it's going to be up to officers to make sure there's additional probable cause before deploying a search dog. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Supporters say legalizing recreational marijuana will generate much needed tax revenue. A study by the University of Montana's Bureau of Business and Economic Research estimated recreational marijuana could generate more than $43 million a year for the state. Well, new laws are not unique to Montana in 2021. Across the country, there are now rules in place ranging from caps on drug prices to police reform and even protecting the dead. CBS's Chris Martinez has a preview of what's new in the new year.
As coronavirus cases keep spiking, some 2021 laws deal directly with COVID-19. Some give help to essential workers. Others boost unemployment benefits or require time off for sick employees. One unusual measure in Alabama encourages fist bumping rather than handshakes. Several states are limiting monthly out-of-pocket insulin costs. In Washington state, the cap is $100. In Connecticut, diabetics with less than a week's worth of drugs and devices must be allowed a 30-day emergency supply with a price cap. Oklahoma is expanding Medicaid to include some 215,000 low-income residents starting in July. New Jersey, Arizona, Montana, and South Dakota all legalized recreational marijuana. And in Oregon, voters decriminalized the possession of small amounts of street drugs, including cocaine and heroin. Those caught will avoid jail time. Instead, they'll pay a fine and attend an addiction recovery program. The death of George Floyd in Minneapolis prompted a ban on police chokeholds in states including California, Delaware, Iowa, New York, Oregon, and Utah. Other laws create more oversight and reporting about police-involved incidents. Georgia created a new crime defined as bias-motivated intimidation, applying to the death or serious bodily injury of police, firefighters, and emergency personnel. Georgia will also require an audit before movie and TV productions get the state's 30% tax credit. And even the dead are covered under a new law in New York. Starting in late May, anyone who dies there has the right of protected publicity. Chris Martinez, CBS News.
New Hampshire is expanding its laws regarding sexual assault, adding protections for victims, and requiring colleges to provide more support services. The start of the 2021 state legislative session is just days away, and staff are working to get the state capitol ready for lawmakers and the public. MTN's Jonathan Ambarian reports on what will be different during the session shaped by COVID-19.
The week before the start of a Montana legislative session is always a busy time, and this year, with the precautions due to COVID-19, there's more work than ever to prepare.
A little special attention this year. We're doing things differently.
Capitol staff has been going through each committee room, cleaning and sanitizing them, and reorganizing the seating so lawmakers will be distanced.
Usually there's around 22 to 24 committee members, 2 staffers, and a clerk. And so that would be about 27 people. And now that we're trying to do social distancing, we have about 18 to 20 max in the room.
This week, the Legislative Services Division announced they had reached an agreement with leadership to have some committee staff work remotely for the first 2 weeks of the session. The committee rooms and the House chamber are being outfitted with TVs, so lawmakers who choose not to be at the Capitol in person can join over Zoom. Rooms will be cleaned after each committee meeting and disinfected overnight. Microphones will have disposable covers, changed every time someone new uses them.
We were estimating 26,000.
Ordinarily, most committee rooms would have several dozen seats for the public to testify. With the added distancing, most of those won't be available. Leaders say they may have to stagger who's allowed in. They're also working on ways to have people testify in writing or over Zoom if they register ahead.
So that the public has as many ways to participate, more than they've ever had before. But they get to do it based on their own healthcare decisions on how they want to participate.
But some lawmakers remain concerned not everyone will have equal access.
There are people that, for a variety of reasons, will not be able to enter that building if it's not a safe place. And that is a problem for the democratic process.
Staff says the current setup in the Capitol is only a baseline, and in the first few days of the session, leadership and committee chairs will have a say in how to modify it going forward. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.
Affordable housing has always been an issue in Montana, but it seems to have taken on added importance during the COVID-19 pandemic. With a budget-conscious legislature set to convene in just a few days, MTN's Tim McGonigal introduces us to a statewide group that's tackling the problem.
Since 1990, Montana rents have increased 26% compared to 16% nationally. Homeownership rates in the Treasure State have dropped from 70% to 67% since 2006. And nearly 30,000 Montana homes are in poor or very poor condition. The Montana Housing Coalition is a policy-making group of developers, communities, and agencies dedicated to changing those statistics. One place they plan to be heard is the 2021 legislature, starting with an effort to increase the coal tax loan fund by $15 million.
That first $15 million was expended in 7 different projects across Montana in the first 6 months of it being available. So we know that there's a huge need for additional funding to create these homes and apartments that are affordable.
The MHC is also hoping for establishment of a state housing tax credit. It would be for investors putting money into housing projects, something Rice says will be helpful in a COVID-challenged budget year.
But when you look at the ability of creating a tax credit, which immediately starts construction of developments for apartments all across Montana, rural and urban, yet the economic impact on the state budget is not felt for 3 to 4 years later.
Finally, the MHC will be advocating for opportunity to purchase legislation. It would give residents of manufactured home communities the chance, as a cooperative, to purchase the community if it goes up for sale, assuring justified lot rent increases.
If that rent goes up too fast, if there's other consequences happening to the land, maybe deferred maintenance, then the value of their home is decreased. And they could also actually be displaced because they can no longer afford a higher rent.
Rice says there are currently 15 resident-owned communities in Montana. In Great Falls, Tim McGonigal, MTN News.
Thank you so much, Tim. Now continuing our coverage, Lake Elmo and Billings will be rid of invasive clams this year. Montana Fish, Wildlife and Parks just announced the 60-acre Billings Reservoir will be drained starting in September. They say when Lake Elmo is drained, the clams will dry up, freeze, and starve during the winter. The Billings Bench Water Association will then be responsible for refilling the popular recreation spot. Finally, in April of 2022, FWP will restock the reservoir with fish. But during the time when the lake bed is dry, officials will make improvements to the area, including adding boardwalks and a dog park. Also making headlines this morning, if you've been to the gas station lately, you may have noticed prices are creeping up. It's not your imagination. Prices are actually near pandemic highs. On average, the price is sitting at $2.25 nationally for a gallon of unleaded regular. Industry experts point to hopes that travel will pick back up as more people are vaccinated. Normally, this is the time of year gas prices fall to their yearly lows. And before we take a break, after 2.5-year battle with pediatric cancer, 10-year-old Wasey Simonson is returning to the Montana Children's Hospital. However, this time it's not for the chemotherapy, but a gift of a warrior bell meant to be rung when a child completes cancer treatment. MTN Sean Wells shows us its inaugural ringing.
It was a joyous day at Montana Children's Hospital in Kalispell as 10-year-old Wasey Simonson donated his warrior bell to the hospital in front of his team of doctors and nurses, formally signifying the end of treatment for Wasey's long and hard battle with cancer. Wasey's mom, Tommy, says her son started feeling sick and losing weight in February of 2018 and was diagnosed with T-cell lymphoblastic lymphoma.
There was some stomach pain I thought was concerning them, so they did x-ray and it revealed a large mass, about the size of a large football in his chest.
Wasey immediately began intensive treatment, spending 45 days at a children's hospital in Denver before transferring to Montana Children's Hospital in Kalispell to continue chemotherapy. At one point, Wasey and his family drove from Chinook to Kalispell once a week for treatment, about a 5-hour drive each way.
We lived in Kalispell for about a year and then drove back and forth the rest of the time, and he just finished treatment the first part of June of this year.
Tommy said the family wanted to leave behind a legacy at the hospital for Wasey and felt the warrior bell was the best way to inspire future children going through the same battle.
We're just very thrilled that we can do something small for everything that has been done for us.
Wasey's primary doctor at Montana Children's, Dr. Courtney Lyle, says Wasey's warrior bell will inspire children receiving care at the hospital for years to come.
The day that they get to ring that bell and say, I'm done, I finished, it really signifies to the patient just how much they've put into that, how much the families have put into that, and really a day to celebrate. There's certainly moments that we celebrate during the course of therapy, but this is really a big day to celebrate, to say, you've done it, you've made it, and we're here with you.
Wasey believes his warrior bell can serve as a message of hope and resilience for all patients and healthcare workers at Montana Children's.
Stay strong and hope you get well soon, and give them stuff that I got a while ago.
Wasey and his family now travel back to Kalispell once every 3 months for checkups. In Kalispell, Sean Wells, MTN News.